Hi there traders, this is Brad with the guide to the week ahead, the 16th to the 20th of May. Now sterling's going to be the major currency we're going to be looking at this week, and that's because of the CPI, claim account change, and also there's one of the key retail sales figures there on Thursday. So just having a look at the key major events that we've got coming out. I've just put the filter here on just to go through the high impacting releases. Okay, now nothing really on Monday, so don't think the start of the week is going to be anything sort of majorly exciting. As I said, sterling is going to be the key part to it. We've got some UK, we've got some US numbers out there as well. So right through from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then as we cruise into Friday with those G7 meetings, we've also got some key CPI data there as well out of Canada. Okay, now there's a couple of bits in between here that you want to have a look at. The Aussie, the major impacting release here for the Aussie dollar will be the employment numbers on Thursday. They are always a pretty high impacting release. Then you've got some other peripheral bits and pieces as well. The monetary policy minutes on Tuesday. Also the Kiwi global dairy pricing there comes out on Tuesday evening as well. So all in all, there's something to go through the week. A little bit for the Asian session, a little bit for the European session, and then really, I guess the major focus will be Tuesday's US CPI numbers and the Canadian CPI retail sales figures on Friday for that North American session. So there's a bit for everyone. You just want to pace out your week. As I mentioned, we will be covering most of the UK events to get that run of sequence and really find out where that momentum is for sterling. Don't forget, we've got that Brexit issue holding over the market still, and that is something that you just have to keep in the back of your mind. If the polls change, we could get a sharp movement in the currencies. But at this point, Brexit is in front, and that's aiding that downward move in sterling. Now, the key themes to start the week: dollar rises to two-week high after the US retail sales data had a bit of a spike. Now, there's been no change in the overall expectations for interest rate changes there. So strong numbers, yes, but no real impact on the interest rate scope of the Fed. And then you got those Brexit issues and the same old bits and pieces going on. Now let's just see where that dollar closed the week. Looking at the dollar index, we had a decent spike after those retail sales figures, as you'd expect. It was sort of gyrating around that sort of 94, sort of 30 level, shot up towards 95. US equities off 1%. Okay, I was a little bit surprised at that. Primarily, you'd think the equities would get hit with strong US numbers, but there's been no change in the overall expectations for interest rates. It seemed to have already been impacted or factored in on the equity markets, even though the interest rate market hasn't moved. Now, as I said, there's not a lot of US data. There are still some peripheral numbers coming out here, so just keep an eye on those. But you're really looking for those higher impacting numbers, like the US CPI is going to be key. Now, we've got the major currency pairs. Have a look at the start of the week. You really want to work out if there's a clear bias in the currencies. And fortunate for us this week, the currencies have got a very clear bias. The Aussie dollar is in a nice short to medium term, I guess it is, downturn at the moment. And having a look at just through the major currencies, we're breaking some sort of major levels. There's not a lot of trend lines on the downside at this point, but the bias for the Aussie is down. The bias for the Kiwi is definitely down. Dollar yen, probably a little bit sideways, but it's got a touch of downward pressure still on it. We're still waiting for the BOJ to act there. Euro's definitely come off, and there's sterling also breaking down. And dollar CAD has shot to the top side. A little bit of a run against that oil price. One of those rare moves we see where oil and CAD have disconnected with that dollar strength. Now, dollar yen is still going to be the major currency to focus on in town. Okay, I know we've got some key UK data all week, but the Bank of Japan is still lurking. Now, the market's gone a little bit quiet on the Bank of Japan. I know we've got the G7 coming up at the end of the week, but these yen crosses and dollar yen are still the major focus. Be very aware or wary of the BOJ coming out and doing some sort of surprise intervention. This is the sort of time they really like to do it when, the news wires are talking about the US dollar. They'll be definitely talking about sterling a lot this week, and that's when you might see them strike, and we could see dollar yen up 300 or 400 points, and all these yen crosses, well, they've been belted. We've got to wait for them to sort of stabilize and get some more shape around their technical setup. All right, so sterling, as I mentioned, is the key to it. So make sure you get into your sterling charts. Now, there's that yellow line. It's broken down through that sort of I guess, shorter term support line. It's belted through there. We've come through the second line of support, which was around 144, the figure. Okay, so those US numbers really sort of giving it a push down there. And going into the week, we've got a couple of levels that we should really look for on the top side. Now, sterling has been trading on the soft side, so we should be looking to be sellers back up towards 144 or up towards that 144.80. There are sort of two immediate levels at this point that we should really be focusing in on. And let's not forget too, the yen crosses, the sterling crosses, definitely worth making sure that you have got your charts and your technical levels all fine-tuned so you can make those easier trading decisions. There's nothing worse than coming into the markets and actually trying to work out where you're going to be getting in, and then the actual currency's taking off beforehand. So major currency pairs, go through, get your support and resistance levels first of all, and then start to focus in on the currency pairs that are going to be moving around a lot. And as I mentioned, sterling is the main one. So go through and get all these crosses. The main reason why you want to do that is by going through the technical aspect, you will generally have a good idea of which particular sterling cross is the best to trade. Now, a lot of people always ask us, what cross do I trade? Well, the one with the best technical setup, that's the one you trade. Of course, sterling against the dollar is the major currency pair, right? Well, that's a good point because everyone is trading that, so that's number one. But then go through and like sterling Swiss here, you can actually end up finding some really good levels that you probably otherwise wouldn't have found if you don't go back through and do your analysis. And it's across the board. All right, so sterling Swiss looks like it's got a pretty good setup. Sterling Aussie, and this is where you can sort of put the economic data together. So if we start to get strong UK numbers and weak Aussie numbers, well then sterling Aussie is obviously going to be a great pair to be trading. Okay, now what else have we got? So coming into that European session too, obviously sterling is going to be the major driving force, but euro sterling, okay, around those releases will also be trading. Now I think it's more in a sideways trading mode at the moment. We have to get some serious weakness in these UK numbers to get this thing moving south. Otherwise, I think we're just going to continue gyrating sideways. And that's primarily because if you go back through the economic numbers, have a look here. We've got some Aussie, sterling, bit of CAD, US, then sterling, Aussie. There's no European releases. Okay, so the direction in Europe is going to come primarily from sterling and also those US numbers, which will kick around obviously the euro and sterling. So euro sterling itself, the direction for euro sterling is definitely going to come just from the UK numbers. All right, so don't forget those polls are out there. It is a bit unsettling having positions. You don't want to be, or just basically make sure you have tight stops or trailing stops. Don't leave any cash on the table with that with those sessions. Now in the trading hub, don't forget we've got the new forecast level there as well, and the charts for you to take advantage of. It's all good to go. Have a good week. We'll catch you later on.